Hey cuties, this is the Dark Side of Perfect. I'm your host, Maggie, and today we are going to be talking about how being a perfect girl, perfect person shows up physically in your body. So, the physical representation of stress and constant output. And I also want to talk about nervous system regulation, which I feel like is a big buzzword in the perfect girl sphere. This is a little bit more health and wellness in a physical sense than my previous episodes, but I do think that it ties in to a lot of what I want to talk about in the dark side of perfect as a whole. And it does relate back to finding some of the softness and some of the intuitiveness of your own self that we have been exploring through season 1. So let's talk about it. Before I get into this episode, I do want to say that I'm going to be talking about some health and wellness stuff as it pertains to your physical body. And I am not a doctor by any means. If you are having some symptoms or anything happening in your body, go see a doctor. I'm just going to be talking about how to step into your feelings and how to step into your body to kind of listen to your body's cues. I also want to give a little bit of a disclaimer that I'm going to tell a story in just a minute. It's one of the first things I'm going to talk about, and it's a little bit scary sounding. It's a personal story that relates to this topic. I'm fine. Everything about my health is fine, but I did just want to say that the story is a little bit extreme and may come off as a little bit of a scary moment. So I just wanted to put that warning out there so that you're aware that it's coming. So let's get into today's episode. Health and wellness obviously is a main pillar of the perfect girl persona. We can tell you our macros of the food that we're eating. We can tell you our step goal. We can tell you the brand of the matching set that we're wearing. But oftentimes, we can't tell you why our chest feels hot or why we haven't taken a singular deep breath that we've noticed all day or why we have nightmares or can't sleep at all sometimes. We care about the perception and the aesthetics of health and wellness. And, perception and aesthetics for health and wellness is great as a motivator to help with the health and wellness. Like, I love putting on a matching set and going to my reformer Pilates class. And I'm not trying to discredit perception and aesthetics at all. But my argument is going to be that we need more intuitive wellness, more listening, more feeling, more moving with our natural rhythms. I feel like in our health and wellness culture, in this episode, I'm not going to talk about diet or food or anything like that, really just stepping into your body. But as a culture, I do feel like we treat our bodies and our health as a project to be managed, something with a lot of different data points that need to be looked at, but almost all of those data points are external. What are you eating? What types of foods are you eating? How many calories are you consuming? How often are you working out? What do you look like? Instead of looking at our bodies as a home to be lived in, making sure that we feel good and that what we're putting into our bodies or what we're feeling or what we're doing is in line with our natural rhythms enough that we feel good in ourselves. And not just because we're doing the quote unquote right thing within our culture, but because we're doing the right thing for us. So this episode is for the person who pushes through pain, a high achiever who can't shut up their minds at the end of the day, the person who tears up but never cries or feels broken when they can't get excited about something, even if they feel like they should be excited, and the person who feels disconnected from themselves. To put this idea of coming into your body, listening to your body, knowing when it's too much, and knowing how to identify your different feelings and the cues that your body is telling you, I'm going to tell kind of an extreme story of something that happened to me to kind of put it into a personal context so that we can understand the importance before I talk about nervous system regulation. So, when I was in college, my undergraduate degree, I was maybe 20, 21. This was right before COVID happened. I was doing classes. I had 2 degrees at the time. I was doing economics and chemistry. I was working in a chemistry lab. I was working at the University Center for the Arts, which is like the theater part of the university that put on like symphonies, orchestras, theater performances, things like that. I had joined a sorority. I was only in the sorority for about 6 months because I felt like it was something that I should be doing to get the full college experience. Turns out that wasn't for me, but at that time I was in a sorority. I was also working for the chemistry department, developing shows for the community to teach them about science and chemistry. I had a boyfriend who I lived with and who is now my husband. So I had like a robust social life. I had friends. I had things going on. And as I'm sure you can imagine, my calendar was back to back to back, very busy, very overwhelming. So one night, while I had all of this going on, I was at work at the Center for the Arts and I was working in the box office and there was something going on, I don't remember. And we needed to stay late to strike the stage. So clean up, get everything off the stage after a performance and set up for the next performance. So my boss asked me, she's like, "Hey, could you stay late tonight?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely, whatever. You buy me a Sprite, I will stay late." That was the arrangement. So she goes, she gets me my Sprite, and I'm drinking it, taking a little bit of a break, and then the team starts shuffling around. We're getting ready to go strike the stage, and I lose my vision. I could see shadows and whatever. I mean, it was scary. I know that I get migraines with auras, which means that I have vision changes when I get migraines. And I had pushed myself so far that that night I had a migraine so bad that I lost my vision. And it was temporary. It only lasted a couple of minutes that it went black, and I freaked out, as I'm sure you can imagine. I freaked out. I went to my boss, who I was very close with, and she called my boyfriend and she brought me outside. I sat on a bench outside and I waited for him to come get me. And I left my car at the University Center for the Arts and he came and got me. And he was like, "Should we go to the emergency room?" But I knew I was having a migraine. I knew it wasn't as bad as it could be. So I was like, "No, let's not go to the emergency room. I'm not in any pain. I can talk. I'm not having any other symptoms of what it could have been and my vision is coming back. I think I just need to go lay in a dark room and take the steps for a migraine." And I did. But then the next morning, I was like, okay, that was obviously really scary. So I'm going to go to the urgent care and make sure that I'm fine. I went, they did the test for all the stuff, and it was just a migraine. It was just my body pulling the plug. And as a result of that incredibly scary experience, I decided that my body was screaming at me, that it had been talking to me for so long, telling me something that I didn't want to hear because I was stuck in that productivity loop and I was stuck wanting to keep my calendar so full and I was stuck feeling obligated to all of these different things that I put my hands in, all these different buckets that I wanted to be a part of because I was trying to find who I was and what I liked and trying to have the best college experience that I possibly could. It pushed me to my limit. And as a result of being pushed to my limit, I quit my sorority. It wasn't for me anyway. I didn't want to do it. I quit it. I decided that was the one thing that I was going to fully separate myself from. I lessened my shifts at the UCA. I leaned a little bit more on my partner for my chemistry department job. I switched my chemistry major to a chemistry minor. And then I lessened my role at the lab. And then a couple months after that, COVID hit and everything that I was busy with went away except school because we still had like online school and stuff and other stressors came on and then I was having a lot of anxiety about COVID and my situation changed a lot. But that whole situation scared the crap out of me. And I realized in that moment, and not a moment before that, that I needed to start listening to my body when it spoke to me. And I needed to start working within my natural rhythms, do some nervous system regulation, and figure out what was something that I really needed so that I could move forward in my life and not have that happen again. Because that was one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me. I was stuck in my masculine energy. They talked about masculine energy and how it's about the hustle and the productivity loop. And I was pushing past the signs and not having any balance with softness. I had no way out of the productivity loop. And masculine energy lives in that a tiger is chasing me kind of a mindset. And when we stay in that go, go, go energy, our nervous system doesn't get the signal that the hunt is over. So then, if you're sleeping, you get nightmares. Or if you're trying to relax, your brain is still on a loop because your nervous system hasn't gotten the signal that you're okay. It still thinks that we're running from a tiger, thinks that we're hiding in a cave, waiting for the tiger to find us and trying to get it to sleep so that we can conserve energy. Pushing through that productivity loop is the ultimate expression of imbalanced energy. And closing the loop requires softness because you can't heal in a production loop. You need to figure out how to close it, how to romanticize your life, how to find that softness so that you can close that loop and finally start healing yourself. And one of the first steps to that is being able to step into your body and listen to what it's telling you. I want to talk about the science of your nervous system a little bit because before I had the migraine that changed my life, I have always thought about it like a therapist asking you, where do you feel that in your body? And you saying, where do I feel that in my body? I can't even name the feeling. I don't even know what I'm feeling. Connecting it to the different sides of my nervous system helped me think about my body and my nervous system and listening to my body in a little bit more of a scientific light and a little bit more of a, oh, this actually needs to happen from like a science medicine perspective, not just like a woo woo hippie perspective, even though it's like kind of a little bit of a blend of both. I feel like in our culture it blends them, but really studies on somatic awareness show that people who can accurately sense their heart rate, their breath, and their body signals have lower rates of anxiety and better emotional regulation. And knowing what your nervous system does and what it looks like and what you're tapping into in the actual pathways of your body is step one. It's just understanding what's actually happening so that when you step into it, you can recognize that this is actually a bodily function and not just an idea. Your nervous system is your body's operating system. It runs everything that you don't think about, like your heart rate, your digestion, your breathing. And there are two different sides of your nervous system. I'm going to put a link in the show notes that has a lot of different information on the nervous system and how it applies to a lot of different parts of your body. But in that link, if you scroll down just a little bit, there's an image that shows what the two sides of your nervous system are in control of and what tapping into each side does to each part of your body. So if you're more of a visual learner, as I'm talking through this, if you want a visual, that link has a photo. Or if you don't need the photo, then I'm going to go through each of them right now. There's what I call the go side, which is your sympathetic nervous system. This is what's designed for survival. And when it's active, your blood moves to your limbs, your heart races, and non essential things like deep thinking slow down or stop, which is why you get that brain fog after being in your sympathetic go phase for so long, because your deep thinking, your creative thinking takes a back seat. Then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, which I call stop. So go and stop. So the parasympathetic, I'm sure you've heard this term if you've been to like a yoga practice. Tap into your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest system. This is where healing, creativity, and your mind body connection can happen. So if you're in that constant go phase, it's easier to ignore your body's signals. But if you're in the parasympathetic, if you have that balance of hustle versus softness, then it's easier to tap into your body and feel what you're feeling, whether it's physically and your body telling the signs like a migraine or your stomach grumbling because you're hungry, or if it is a feeling. Most of us live in go, in the sympathetic, and we have it on overdrive. And we think and say that that puts us in constant fight or flight. I've heard that said all over the perfect girl sphere on social media is constant fight or flight mode. We're constantly in fight or flight. But what they don't say is that there's actually more to it than that. That being constantly in your sympathetic nervous system is not a constant fight or flight, but there are actually a couple of more options than that. And I always thought about it when they said constant fight or flight, I was like, oh, that couldn't possibly be me because whenever I'm feeling stressed out or anxious, I'm not trying to put my fists up or run in the opposite direction. I'm sitting here in front of my computer doing what I need to do. And I think that's another thing that we don't talk about is what fight or flight actually means in the context of modern life. I'll start with the two ones that we always talk about. Fight can look like irritability, snapping, or being on edge. Maybe something happens and you yell or you snap or you get overly annoyed. Flight, I know that feels like it should be running in the opposite direction, but in modern life what it really looks like is anxiety or overworking to avoid feeling. It's not flying away from the work that you have to do. It's flying away from the feelings that you are trying to avoid within that productivity loop. You're staying in that hustle to avoid anything that you're trying to feel, or because you've learned that being in that hustle gives you that purpose and that direction to go in so that you don't have to step back and think of, am I happy? Is this something I actually want? The productivity loop was designed to keep you from thinking those things so that you don't move out of the productivity loop and out of the capitalist structure that we have created as a culture. So it keeps you in that loop and you don't want to walk away from it and face the idea of what you really could want. You don't want to grieve who you used to be. You don't want to escape the should trap because those feelings are hard. And being in the productivity loop, something we've always been told that we should be doing, is easier. But there are more options. So there are 5 F's total of what staying in your sympathetic go, go, go nervous system is. So fight, flight, and then there's freeze, which is procrastinating, feeling stuck, and doom scrolling as some examples. So physically not being able to do anything because, I don't know, you're afraid you'll mess it up. You're afraid it'll be wrong. You're afraid of being perceived. Then there's one that is like the perfect girl creme de la creme of being in your sympathetic nervous system. And that is fawning, which is a therapeutic response, or I guess in therapy, it's classified as a response to a traumatic event or being in your sympathetic nervous system. And it is described as people pleasing, over explaining, or scanning the room to make sure that everyone is doing okay so that you feel safe and secure. It can also look like mimicking around you so that you can feel secure, which I call masking. It is also called code switching. So, changing what you're feeling, hiding what you're feeling, putting yourself behind a mask to make yourself feel more secure in a situation. So that is one of the response to being in your sympathetic nervous system constantly, which is crazy that people pleasing and perfectionism comes from being in that go, go, go state in like an actual therapeutic scientific way and not just being a reason that we're in the sympathetic, because it is a reason, but then it leads to more. It's like a compounding effect. You start out a people pleaser, you start out wanting to cater to other people's emotions because maybe you were in a situation where you always had to do so. And then it puts you in that constant sympathetic go, go, go phase where you're always trying to do the next right thing, be 10 steps ahead, think about people before yourself. And then that gets magnified as a response, and then you can't pull back from it. And it stops you from going into your parasympathetic nervous system and calming down. The last one is flop, which is a total shutdown. That's the migraine I had. Total pull the plug, you're not doing this anymore. Your body is screaming at you to just stop. I frequently experience all of these at the same time, all 5 F's. And it feels like sometimes that procrastination and performing can be justified as rest and it can be confused as rest. So if you're in your sympathetic and you're in the freeze state of doom scrolling and procrastinating, or if you're in the fawning and you're people pleasing and over explaining and scanning the room to make sure that everyone is doing okay, it can be justified as rest, or maybe you don't realize that you're scanning the room and masking. But I think deep down, I do, at least, and I'm sure you do too, realize that I'm not being nice. I'm not trying to accommodate others' feelings on purpose. I'm overwhelmed and I'm stuck in my sympathetic nervous system and I'm stressed out and I can't move forward and no one can see behind the mask. No one can see it. And I'm standing here with my happy face on, but my brain is whirring and I'm thinking about the next 10 things that I have to do. I can't stop my sympathetic nervous system from rolling through me. I can't transition into that rest and digest. I can't listen to my body when it's talking to me because everything in my head is so loud that my body is only able to whisper and I cannot hear it. I have had those thoughts and that freak out moment where I feel like no one can see behind the mask or see how stressed out I am so many times. And it's difficult when you're coming into your body for the first time to not resort back to putting on the mask and realizing when you're doing it and recognizing when that needs to come down. Because all of my episodes up to this point have talked about breaking the should trap, finding what you want, how to find some softness in your life, some of the emotional mental capacity things that you need to do in order to figure out what you want. What's really important for this episode specifically is the reframe to the understanding that you can't build a healthy body on a broken foundation. Just think of it like if you're in a high production loop, sending a lot of emails, you have a lot of meetings, a lot of things are happening, and you force yourself into a high intensity workout because it's on the schedule, you are just adding stress to an overflowing cup. Do you ever feel better after a really high intensity workout when you're already stressed out? Or do you just feel more stressed out and like you just pumped that cortisol and pumped that adrenaline through your body and now your mind is racing even worse than it was before? Working out while you're dead tired only leads to inflammation. It doesn't lead to muscle growth. Sitting at a desk with killing back pain is just leading to your brain getting better at feeling the pain. Every pain point, every time that you're feeling anything, it's a data point. And I've talked about this in every single episode. It's a data point. But unlike those episodes, where those data points, you pick them out, you do something about them, listening to your body is so much harder because it's giving you data, pain, fatigue, overwhelm, and you ignore the report in favor of the hustle and in favor of the productivity loop because as perfect girls, we've been stuck in the sympathetic nervous system for so long that it's hard for us to recognize that it's a data point. It's hard for us to even feel it. And a big part of ignoring that data point is what I call apathy armor. It's where being perfect means presenting as fine. And then when we say it enough, I'm fine, we become numb and apathetic. It's the only way to keep the production loop going. If we don't feel exhausted, then we don't have to stop. My friends and I call one of our apathy armors apathetic crying. This is when you're like talking about something or you're watching something and your eyes well up and then it's gone in an instant. Your eyes well up. You don't feel sad, you don't feel anything, but you feel like you're maybe about to cry, but then it's gone. It sucks back up into your head. And that apathetic crying is your body naming a sadness that you can't name. Because if we can't feel it in our body, we can't name it. So that apathetic crying is your body saying something that you can't hear or that you can't name. That heat in your chest, that anger that you can't name, even though you feel the heat. That hollow stomach, nauseated feeling is a need for safety. Our body can say things to us. But having that apathy armor means that we can't really name that feeling. And we feel it in our body sometimes if it's bad enough, but then it goes away so we can ignore it and then we can keep going. As we start to shed this armor, as we start to thaw and listen to our body, which I'm going to talk about how to do that in a minute. But once we start to remove this apathy armor and once we recognize where in our nervous system we need to be, how to create that balance, how to create that softness. When you start coming home to your body, it's like ice melting and letting out what was frozen behind your walls. And it can be kind of scary at first because as an apathetic person, as an apathetic girl, you're not used to feeling all of those things all at once. And it can feel that way. Like you're feeling like floodgates have opened, the ice has thawed, and the dam has broken, and water is coming from all sides, and you just want to stop it. And you were hoping that coming into your nervous system and listening to your body and regulating your nervous system meant that you would immediately feel at peace. You would immediately be a calm, yoga speaking, regulated person. And I'm so sorry to tell you that that is not step one. That's way further down the line. And first, you have to remove the armor and let the ice thaw. You might have sudden bursts of emotions, anger over a small thing, a wave of anxiety out of nowhere, crying for the first time in 2 years because you broke a plate. That happened to me. During that time, it's easy to confuse that with being in your sympathetic state still. But letting that anger out and putting a name to it and recognizing it, it's like when you recognize a thought and then you let it go during meditation. Recognizing the emotion, putting a name to it, feeling it somewhere in your body, that is step one to letting that ice thaw and hearing what your body is telling you. But when you're having those sudden bursts of emotion, it's easy to run back to the ice, to not feeling, to protect yourself and appear fine. Because as a perfect girl, you want to say, I'm fine, and you want to mean it. But those bursts are your body feeling safe enough to process the backlog of emotion that you have been masking for years. It's letting go of that armor for you. And when I say armor, a lot of people talk about walls being put up around their heart to keep people out. I'm talking about letting go of those walls to let yourself in. Other people in this situation don't matter. What matters is you, and letting go of that apathy, letting in that emotion for yourself. It's scary, but it'll be a real act of self-love. When you have ignored your body for so long, the first few attempts to talk to it will feel like a scream, but it is self-love, and it will maybe be the first time you will feel self-love by just allowing that ice to thaw for you. So now let's move into how to recognize your body talking to you. What are some signs? So some easy starts are jaw. Are you clenching your jaw right now? Breath. This is why it's used a lot in yoga. It's an easy place to start. Noticing your breath. Is it shallow? Is it just in your chest? Does it move down to your diaphragm, your stomach? Then there's digestion. Are you feeling butterflies? Is your stomach grumbling? Are you feeling bloating? Are there knots in your stomach? And then you can start to figure out why those things are happening. Are you sucking in your stomach right now? Is there any way you could let it go just a little bit? And then shoulders. Are they low? Are they up in your ears? Are you holding a lot of tension in your upper back where your shoulder blades are? Letting some of that go. So these are easy, quick check-ins. And if you are feeling all of these things, if your breath is shallow and it's only in your chest, if you're feeling butterflies or bloating, if your shoulders are up in your ears, if you're clenching your jaw, then maybe your body is trying to tell you something right now. Regulating your nervous system isn't about winning over your nervous system or trying to hack your body or being perfectly consistently relaxed or even constantly aware. It's about noticing and acting when you do notice, which starts with practice and some micro movements and micro actions. Some examples of these are, if you feel the urge to pee, don't finish the email first, just go now. My mom once told me that holding your pee is a form of self-harm, and it changed me ever since. And now whenever I have to pee, I just go. If you feel thirsty, get water. If your eyes hurt, take a 2-minute screen break. When I first started on this journey, I didn't have any hunger cues. I had no idea when I was hungry or when I needed fuel. So I started to eat at regular times, and I would eat at the same time every day, even if it was something small. And eventually, I started figuring out some alternative hunger cues that my body was giving me since I had ignored my regular normal person hunger cues for so long. I realized that if I was getting very tired, if I ate something, then I was probably hungry and needed a snack, or I needed movement. And now that I recognize that and I eat more regularly and I was trying to tell my body that it could trust me, I now have hunger cues back. My point with that is that every time you listen to a small cue, you're telling your nervous system, I am a safe person to live with, and I won't ignore you anymore. And it's building that self-trust each time that you listen to one of those cues, even if it's something small. And we can naturally expand this into things like cycle syncing, intuitive eating, which is like figuring out what your body actually needs when you're craving something. For example, if you're craving chocolate, then it's most likely that your body needs magnesium. So eat the chocolate, take a magnesium glycinate if it's something that your doctor says is okay for you, things like that. So you can make choices based on what your body is needing. It'll help you to figure out what your body is actually asking for. I want to do more episodes on being more intuitive in that sense, like figuring out what is needed, how to move with your natural rhythms. This episode is more about pulling yourself into your body instead of being all in your head to help find that nervous system regulation so then you can move forward to those intuitive practices, figuring out what your body needs when, what workout you should be doing that day based on what you're feeling. I know I've mentioned this before in the podcast, but I have a chronic illness, and so I have to change what I'm doing day by day, workout wise, eating wise, to make sure that I'm best supporting my body and what it needs. We can move into those conversations, but we have to start here with this framework of pulling into our physical selves. The last part of this episode, I want to do something together that I think will help to put you in your body now, and then you can continue to come back to it. When I was in undergrad and I was trying to stop overloading myself, I went to a mindfulness workshop. And one of the things that they taught us was a body scan. And if you have heard of this before, or if you haven't, we are going to do it together right now. And you can take it and use it when you need it. You can do this whether you're driving or walking or at your desk or doing chores, wherever you are. We're going to do this together right now. So, step one, we need to prepare ourselves. So, we're going to take in a deep breath. Helpful thing to do with this breathing portion of it is having your exhale be longer than your inhale automatically puts you in a parasympathetic state, and it tells your brain that you're in a safer spot. So I like to use, I don't know what the numbers are, but 4, 6, 7 or something like that. So you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 6, and then exhale slowly for 7. Some other methods of breathing are box breathing, but that has actually been shown that it can increase your anxiety if you're doing it in the middle of a panic attack situation. So I prefer the shorter inhale, longer exhale method. So with those ideas, let's do this body scan. First, we're going to start by taking a deep breath. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and slowly let it go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Great. We're going to do another one of those and see if you can notice where the breath is going. Are you holding it in your chest? Could you invite it down through your diaphragm into your stomach? Take the deepest, most intentional breath that you've taken all day. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then slowly let it go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Next, let's settle into whatever space is supporting us. So whatever chair, ground, bed, wherever you are, feel gravity pulling you in towards whatever is supporting you at this moment. Settle into your body. And then to start the body scan, I always like to bring my fingers up to the top of my head and give it a couple of taps with just my fingertips, pulling my focus towards the spot that I want to be focusing on. What do you feel at the top of your head? Does your head hurt? Does it feel sore? Does it feel normal? Then using your fingers, drag down your temple, your ear, down to your jaw. Relax your jaw. Drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Relax your mouth. Then using your fingers, glide down your neck or tap down your neck, or even apply a bit of pressure to pull down your neck, applying that focus there and then pushing down on your shoulders. Move your shoulders out of your ears, your upper back down your back, then move down your arm, your elbow, your fingers, relaxing each one of them. If you can't tell if your fingers are relaxed or any part of your body, what I like to do is to tense them up. So flex your hands, move your fingers, and then actively let it go limp, let it relax. Then we'll move to our collarbones, tapping along them, moving down our body, our chest, our stomach, our lower back. Are you holding any tension in your stomach? Let that go. Take a deep breath. Move down to your hips. Are they feeling sore or flexible? Keep moving down your legs to your knees. Can you bend and extend your knees? Then moving down your calf. If you're feeling any nerve tension there, move down your ankle, maybe give it a few spins. Are you feeling any popping or is the move easy? Then all the way down to your toes. Using your fingers to guide this focus is a good practice in the beginning, and then eventually you can use your breath and your mind's eye to draw the focus where it needs to be instead of using your fingers. I like to do this practice right before I go to bed to put me into that parasympathetic nervous system state. It helps me to relax so that I don't have any nightmares and I can fully bring myself into the present before bed. Sometimes I don't even make it through my entire body before I fall asleep. That 60 seconds of noticing the parts of your body was closing a production loop. It was a meditative practice, even if it didn't feel like it because it was a little bit more active than a traditional meditative practice. It was finding softness. It is really the start of rebuilding trust with yourself and feeling your body. If you were going through the body scan and you noticed that maybe your stomach was feeling hollow and empty and maybe hurting or grumbling and you're hungry, or maybe you notice that your mouth is very dry and that you need some water, or maybe you notice that your hips are really tense, so maybe you want to do a little bit of a 5-minute stretch. You notice and then you take action, and that is the start of rebuilding trust with yourself and feeling your body. You are not a brain carrying around a body like a backpack. You are one whole, full, beautiful person. Your body has been there for you since day one. It has been loyal. It has supported you. It has walked you miles. It has driven you to all of your goals. And I'm so proud of you for taking these steps and finally making the space to listen to it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope that you learned something about your nervous system and nervous system regulation in a little bit more of a science context and a way of applying it to your body instead of just hearing it on social media. I really enjoy talking about subjects like this, stepping into your body. I think it's one of the more important steps of breaking out of the mold of the perfect girl persona. I would really appreciate if you would rate and follow this podcast. Any interaction really does help. If you're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever you're listening to your podcast to, following, liking, rating, commenting. It all helps. If you're on Instagram and you would like to follow the podcast Instagram, it is darksideofperfect.pod. That is darksideofperfect, Pod. I hope you're finding joy wherever you are today, and I hope that this episode helped you really hear me when I say that you don't owe the world exhaustion to earn love. I will see you next time.